Don't be a disgusting. Boom, women.
Helping you out on Ancient Wisdom.
Welcome to Ancient Wisdom. That's what we deciphered. And we're episode 56. I can't bereave, but part of me can, to be honest. We got a good show for you today. A lot of fun in store. But first, I thought this one was funny.
Everyone knows.
Our reaction is terrible now.
Everyone knows the Arnold.
Phone showed it 2
grip.
seconds ago.
I know.
My homage to the Jews before was inspired by this next clip.
Oh, man.
Okay, I'll probably have to blur this out for YouTube, but this is what cultural enrichment has brought us. Oh, this is France. And what you're seeing is what you think you're seeing.
Good God.
All right, guys, should we get into the show?
Let's do it.
I got a fun game for you guys prepared. Let's see if we could do it, right? So I'll start off by saying that I always thought, as you could tell from how I'm dressed, that my worldview was somewhat Eastern. That was just a phrase I said. It's just a phrase, Eastern. What that means, I don't know. And then I really got to thinking that there's so many different ways of viewing your life and viewing the divine. And I was thinking we could play a little game to sort of guess Mitch's 4 all-encompassing worldviews on religion.
Oh, this should be fun.
Right. So,
What does Mitch believe?
what does Mitch believe? So I want you guys to think about like maybe a person in your life and how would you describe their religious belief?
I know someone that believes in Buddhism and possibly that we came from a planet called Kobe.
Interesting. So we got psychos and Buddhists. Nice. I want to write that down.
It's the same person. But yeah,
Okay, deep.
it's one person.
Psycho/Buddhist. All right, so we have psycho-Buddhist. And my theory is that there's sort of 4 groups that will encompass all of the groups. And I want you guys to help me decide if that's it, if there's more, if I missed any.
Oh, a lot of women, of course, believe in Mother Nature being the god of all.
crystals. What would you call that? What would you call that? You have to label it. You have to define a word.
New Age
Spiritual.
spiritual.
What? New Age spiritual. All right, I like that. New Age spirit. What about people who just like Catholicism? What about people who just like
who
Christianity?
just like it. That's a good idea.
Basic one.
Real Catholics.
I was
How
thinking of
about
just
that?
insane.
Yeah, right. They don't have to be insane.
Okay.
I'm talking about anyone's worldview ever. I think that, again, my hypothesis is that all worldviews can be one of 4 things.
Well, of course, you got Muslims and Jews.
Yeah.
You've got Zoroastrianists.
Yep, Zoroastrianists, yes.
What about just the atheists who think that they are the Big Bang?
So before we move on, let's stick with that, right? So so I think we pretty much discovered one. We got real Catholics, which means real religious people, which I like to call fundamentalists. Fundamentalists. Now, this is the type of people that could be, orthodox in a religion. These are people that could go back to Aztecs, cannibals. They really believe in what they're saying. They have given their life, I call it by the book people. If it was written in the book, I believe it. If the priest said it, I believe it because he's holy. I'm a fundamentalist and I believe that which is written. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm following you.
So what else?
I have people who think they are their own god, like the everyone is their own god type of mentality.
Ooh,
Right.
Good one. Wants to be
Oh,
God.
God.
Yeah.
Be God. That's very interesting. I like that. Yeah. I am God. So we could call that satanic.
Nice.
So I also like, Poe just thought about optimistic too, because I should have stopped right when you said that, because I have another full group called
The agnostics.
the Hopefuls.
Ah.
Now this one I also have another name for, which is because my parents did it. You are, and I think what fits into that group is like fake Christians, people who did stuff just because their parents did it. People who were taught a religion when they were born and they just believe it because, but they don't want to go to hell. They're hopeful. They don't follow everything, kind of like your Catholics, but they believe in evolution. They're like hopeful. It's like, yeah, I do some things, but not the other things. But hopefully I'll go to heaven because I do more good things than I do bad things.
Right. The utilitarianism view.
Utilitarian. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
More good than evil kind of viewpoint.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll put that under the hopeful category. Yeah, absolutely. So what else do we got here? What about
people that think like, you said be their own God? What about people that might say, money and power are their God? People that are, power hungry or money hungry?
Materialists.
Materialists or worldists.
That's pretty cool.
World vices. How do you say it?
The globalists, I don't know. But that's pretty cool. And yeah, just like what do they call it? Spiritual materialists. They believe in the power of the spirit. And Poach said one before too, which I gotta put in my main category, which I like to call. You said agnostic, but I call it true agnostic. Now, this is somebody who's perhaps more Eastern, the word I used before, but this also includes people who are Buddhist, I believe, people who perhaps even are the true scientists, right? Agnostics. We test things so that we may stumble upon the truth, that the truth may be revealed.
And they know that they don't know.
I know that I don't
Scientists
know.
experiment because, all right, we're not there yet. We got to
Right.
do some more tests.
You can't say that unless I
Right.
have proof for it. Did you do the test? How good are these variables?
Right.
So I think that's pretty good too. And of course, I have to do my last category as what I like to call the escapists. So this is where we are right now. These are Mitch's main four: the fundamentalists, the hopefuls, the true agnostics, and the escapists. And I postulate, so comment, y'all, and you guys comment right now. Does this feel right to you? Can you think of anything that doesn't fit into these four categories?
I think you hit it all. I can't think of anything else. Any other categories?
Evan, you gotta try. We're playing a game. So, like, for example, we got a psychotic Buddhist, right? I think that's sort of an escapist. Same thing with the new age spiritual people. I'll put them back in the escapists because there's real stuff going on, but they don't believe. And escapists also include atheists, people who are given this crazy life, but they say, no, it's nothing. Fuck God, he's not here. You're just running from any way of receiving truth. So it's pretty deep, right? You either believe fully, you kind of want to believe, you don't believe in anything for certain unless it's proven, and maybe what could even be proven, or the escapists, the people that run from all of the above.
Where would you say that like a scientist fits in, like an unfaithful person that is probably leaning towards atheism, but he's the agnostic.
Now this is deep.
He wants to know the truth.
Yes, I like that a lot. So I put like true scientists in the agnostic group.
Okay.
But here's
Makes
another
sense.
fun one that I thought of, because I had two other subcategories that I was going to add to this, and one of them is called the autistic freak.
All right.
Now, I know a lot of these people because they're hyper intelligent, but they have a degree of autism that makes them not understand jokes necessarily. And I says, oh my God, the autistic freaks are just escapists too. These are the futurists, the fake scientists that are all reading the Ray Kurzweil books, can't wait to put AI in their body, can't wait to be a robot. They're escaping death, literally. They're more autistic freaks than real scientists. They're like, whoa, man, flying cars and AI girlfriends and everything. You're still running from life because you're hoping for meaning through human beings, through science.
You want
quote
to
unquote
build
science.
God.
Build God.
Because you're not sure he's there, so you want to build him. You want to create him. And who are you to think you can?
Exactly.
But maybe you don't have the ability, so you join the group who thinks they can.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Which would be that group you just
Boom.
described.
And I wholeheartedly feel that as an escapism point of view because in my old age, I realized there's so much going on now. There's so much going on. There's so much beauty around us. There's so much spirituality if you know where to look. But if you just keep putting your faith in the group, as Poach said, or in man, or in this fake idea of science, which is not even true. I remember this article when I was in high school, probably 2008, saying 2016 is the big year. Everyone's getting their own personal private helicopter. And we're just going to be flying around in the skies. And they saw there's these prototypes. Yeah, 2016 is the year. Maybe only rich will afford them at first. But, dude, it's 2024. I haven't seen nothing. I remember that so clearly. 2016. That was the year. I marked it on my calendar. I want my own flying car. Come on.
Yeah,
I definitely have one by now.
Yeah, even in
optimistic.
films.
Yeah, very optimistic.
Even in films, they made you believe that by 2020 or something, Terminator, the world was over.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So, Poach, you said optimistic. I'll put optimistic into the hopeful category.
I have to zoom you in the right mirror
Nice.
so that you can actually read your whiteboard.
Yeah, that's right. Excuse my handwriting as well. Yes. But I think the optimistics here are the hopefuls. They want to believe, but really there's no evidence to go off of. Besides that stupid article you read about 2016 being flying cars. There's no real evidence.
You guys are describing to me Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's its own category.
Silicon Valley. I put them in autistic freaks. I thought about that before.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Which I would call just another escapist.
Yes,
Yes. Silicon Valley, we're gonna build it. Yeah.
We're
It's
gonna
like,
make-
what?
yeah.
But there's already stuff here and we're misusing it. It's like giving your money to Israel and Ukraine when there's homeless people and starving people on the streets here and like terrible economy, wasting. Like, what are you doing? Why? It makes no sense. There's problems here.
I also think that all these people are very far off into the future with how they think
Right.
God or heaven will go, because they're always thinking about the afterlife, this big scary thing at the end, And that's why I say that none of them are actually working right now to do anything. There's the hopefuls. They're like, yeah, I'll get to it. I hope I'm more good than bad, though. And the escapists, same thing.
Well, I would argue that some of these are a way into enlightenment. Of course, some of them are worse than others, but fundamentalists, you could get to your enlightenment through your fundamentalism. You could even get through it for true agnostics. I think it's beautiful too because it's 50-50. I think the fundamentalists and the true agnostics can get to enlightenment, but I don't think the hopefuls and the escapists can.
Wow.
Isn't that deep? It's sort of like a 50-50. And then there was another subcategory that I
So-
kind of considered. Oh, go for it, Poach.
Enlightenment skips a generation.
Skips a generation. Yeah, dude. Hard times create good men create blah, blah, blah. I never remember the whole saying, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So I had another fun subcategory that I was thinking of, like the Russell Brand types. He was this sort of maybe agnostic before, drug addict, and then became Christian. I call converts. Now it says, oh, maybe is this his own category? Like, what's going on? Because I would kind of identify these people as maybe like the artists, the visionaries of the world, the people who have seen through the nonsense of the world. They were given to the world fully, maybe in Russell's case, being addicted to drugs. But something happened, some crack, tear in the rift happened, and they said, wait, what's going on?
I like that. Maybe they're
Right.
tired of all the highs of this world. and
Yes.
they realize that something is still not fulfilled,
Oh,
even
that's
though
a good one.
they've had it all.
I
kind of
really
thing.
think, especially if you had it all, I think that's so funny. There's like I think an even old ancient Buddhist phrase talking about like, may you get it all, may you have everything. Because then you realize like that was never even what you were
Anything.
looking for.
Wasn't anything
It
to
wasn't
begin
anything
with.
at all, dude.
Right.
That has no way, shape, or form even affects your happiness, whatever you want to call it.
Can't
These
take it
fake
with you,
words.
man.
Can't
So
take
what
it
I
with
hear
you.
you
with-
saying is you can jump between these belief types, these four belief types.
I'd like to say yes. What do you guys think?
It's a caste system. You can go up, down,
Yeah.
but you can't go up.
yeah, exactly.
I think
can
I
go-
go
yeah.
through.
This is the untouchables.
I think I go through
make
all four each day.
Oh, interesting.
I think I'm always-
the transitory. I'll put you right here. You're the transitory.
That's just a vertical
Yeah,
category
exactly.
all to itself.
Mitch, I feel like you have to make like a Walter Russell type sketch with all like
Yeah,
all the
seriously.
connections.
I'm like, it's so limited, this little thing. That'd be cool for the next show. Freaking. So I says, is converts its a new category? But then I said, what do converts typically do is they convert all the way up to fundamentalist.
They never go to something in between.
Never go to something in between if you're converting, right? Do you guys find that, hold that to be true in your heart? I think it as well. If you're a drug addict, you've been so far down, you've escaped it, literally chemically escaped for so long that you have to do the exact opposite in your life to even survive.
But what if you take the path of a fake convert? Where would that land you on that scale?
I think fake convert, yeah, you get into a hopeful.
Right.
You know, and I think hopeful is maybe one of the worst places to be because, as Jesus said, lukewarm, I spit you out. They can't decide, oh, I did it because it's cool, you know, Kanye, it's in fashion, or my parents did it. So like, but really, I think most people never even consider, oh, I was born Christian, so I'm Christian. But if you were born in the Middle East, you'd be Muslim because you haven't put any thought to it at all. You're just a hopeful. You're like, oh, everyone around me is doing it. I hope I go to heaven. Sure, I sin all the time, but, you know, probably do more good than bad. I'm a nice guy. Come on.
You know, you're making me think that the common journey in this thing, I feel like a lot of people, when they're young, they start at the top and they jump around this thing a lot.
Oh, yep.
And in your teens and 20s, you might be probably at the bottom or agnostic. And I think as people get older, they climb back up. This is just a common path I'm detecting.
I like that a lot. That's pretty fun, right? Because like maybe as a baby you are a fundamentalist because everything is so pure. But somewhere along the way you take the opposite route of the drug addict and you jump right to the bottom. You say, fuck everything. Fuck you, mom.
It could also be a slow decline of questioning and not connecting.
I suppose that's true too. Like I never believed, therefore I become a hopeful. And then there's this kind of nice middle ground, which is the true agnostics. And I like this a lot. This is probably where I find myself, which is my next question too. Like, where do you guys think you find yourselves or would hope to find yourself? You know, true agnostic, I like to believe it's this good middle ground where it's just like, I really don't know anything for sure. I can't say. I'm not going to evangelize. It's sort of like the scientist, maybe artistic point of view, but that's just me just using words.
I think it's the best place to be, and I also agree that hopeful is probably the worst place to be.
Yeah.
Even though I've been hopeful before.
Isn't that so funny? Before you continue that, we got...
oh, whoops.
We got these extremes, the fundamentalists and the escapists, but then we have sort of this center of the yin-yang, and even these could be these are like deceptively bad because these lead to one another.
Right.
But the middle is the scariest. You kind of want to end up at true agnostic, but hopeful may be the worst of all.
You know, I was going to ask you,
because escapism leads to belief.
Maybe describe where this fits on your chart. What about someone who... Man, you're going to say hopeful, but I think there might be something else here. Someone who just wants to be fundamental.
Oh.
Someone who's like, I want what he has. I want that belief. But you can't. Can you bring yourself to believe? Can you bring yourself to be fundamental?
That's deep.
Or do you have to like go down to the escapist first to even realize that you want it?
Sounds like they're getting out of the hopeful phase if they're looking at what someone else has. Like, I want that
that's pretty
enlightenment.
cool.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
you could
like
call
you
that a
want it.
transitory
Yeah.
phase,
Yeah.
hopeful upward.
Like you do want it, but you know you don't really believe. But you walk by the church and you're like, man, I wish what these people had. You know?
Yeah. I like the idea of the transitory phase, and you were saying hopeful, but I almost believe that's more on the fundamentalist side. Because, like, if you really want it that bad, you are inclined to start seeking. You know, even like looking at the church and having that feeling, isn't that like a form of seeking? Like, I want to know this truth.
And I think
I'm
that's
not
where I
just
fall in.
hopeful and say God will take care of me no matter what I do, but I'm like, what's going on here? I have an inclination toward this mindset.
I vibe with
thought
that.
process, right? Yeah,
I vibe with that.
That feels real.
What I was saying earlier, hopeful being probably the worst place you could be.
Yep.
I think that's because even in the physical world, we see hopeful, apathetic people. We don't respect that kind of thing if they just don't care about matters of importance.
Yeah, I would
basically.
say hopeful. Another good word for hopeful is the most worldly of all people, because almost fundamentalist, agnostic, escapists, those are almost feel religious to a way, and I guess they all are religious. But hopeful is this worldly version of religion. I call that Satanism is too, like being your own God. That's sort of hopeful. Oh, I'm my own God, all right. That's another one we didn't categorize. Own God, satanic. That's a hopeful because you're not your own God, but you hope you are. It feels like I am. The solipsist. It feels like I am.
It feels like I am. Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Isn't
I
that
never thought of it
interesting?
that way.
Yep. So I wanted to ask what you guys think maybe you are, what your ideal destination would be.
Yeah, so if we're going to go with the way that I am feeling, what I described to you, that walk by the church feeling and say, oh, I want a piece of that, but I know
Oh, that's
I'm
deep.
not in it.
You're on the transitory, which
think,
really
yeah.
means to me fundamental. That's cool.
Well, thank you, Mitch.
That's interesting. I like that a lot.
But I can't say that I'm in that square yet.
Right.
Or-
Okay.
I just can't.
I think that's
not
deep.
even
I'm gonna
yet.
take
Can't even
the.
say yet. I'm
gonna
just not
take
in
the
that square,
dude. I'm gonna take the priestly approach. Not even try to be deep right now, but I'm gonna say you did it, Pose. You're there. You know what I'm saying? Like in your heart, you are. I really feel that to a certain. You know, it's like if you have that inclination, it's like holy shit, maybe you are. You kind of achieve that, but it's the flower blooming. It's a process of awakening. I think that's really cool. Kind of like our Tao later today.
I think I'm a true agnostic, transitory towards escapist.
Oh, interesting. Evan is a true agnostic, transitory escapist. Oh,
I have that
that's a dope title, isn't it? True, not true,
because I have that core belief that I really don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool and try to learn as I go, but I'm also like,
Deep. Wow, this is hot. You guys are getting deep. Wow. Thank you guys for being so honest with this. It makes it for a great show. Like, we got people from all over here. I would probably put myself in the agnostic category. You know, I imagine if you watch this show, you know, you never really know. There's different people on different journeys, but I imagine it sort of tends toward the agnosticism. But, wow, that's super cool. I think we got to the bottom of it.
I love Evan's title where he's what was
True
it?
agnostic, transitory escapists.
Yeah.
dude, you could make one of those online personality quizzes.
Yeah,
like,
boom, there it
which
is.
which level of doom are you, or
Right,
like,
how do you
That's a
believe?
new identity. We have to have a letter for it.
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Wow, so did you like this game? Did you guys agree about like these 4 categories? It seems real. I can't think of anything that would be outside of those 4
I
categories.
tried to
think
poke
they
holes
all.
into it.
Yeah.
I
It
tried.
seems real.
It's tough.
It seems real because we saw that graph of just like psychic energy last week. Discussions, ideas, all somehow interconnect
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly. That's what Poach saying. I got to make a drawing for all this. And I thought I had a few when I did the converts and the autistic freaks. I'm like, could it be? And then I said no. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please comment. I want to know what you are. And on to Evan's ancient quotes.
It's time for some ancient quotes, guys.
Ooh, my favorite.
P.D. Ouspensky.
Oh, P. Diddy?
Yep, P. Diddy Ouspensky.
Oh.
It is only when we realize that life is taking us nowhere that it begins to have meaning.
Ooh, life is taking us nowhere. It begins to have meaning. I like it a lot, dude. Destination. What do you guys think about destination? Everybody's talking about, you got to get there. I think we're all rushing around.
You gotta get
I think I gotta get there, man. Enlightenment. It's this treat at the end of the
there.
tunnel. I need it. But I tend to find that people who need to get there are rushing
Whoa,
toward death.
FOMO, man. Seriously.
FOMO, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a destination in
I
their
was just
head.
about to say, like, how do you know that life is taking you nowhere? Where were you trying to get to?
Oh, deep, man. You don't even know where you're going.
But in Evan, what I got out of this is you don't realize. I would switch meaning for goal. You don't know what your goal is until you feel like you have none.
What was the
then
word he used?
Meaning.
Meaning. Oh.
Yeah.
That it begins to have meaning once
Yeah.
you get rid of the idea that you're going somewhere.
I like the idea, the gay trope of, man, the journey the destination is the journey, man.
I think that might be
Some
where
truth to that.
Yeah, I'd say. But the converts that you're talking about earlier, I think of that Russell Brand character, and I think that after all those highs and those thrills, you just have to slow down a little bit because you're thinking about the highs. That's a destination.
Oh, that's hot, dude.
You know what I mean?
I gotta bring it up. I know I brought it up on the show before, but after my first ayahuasca experience, I said to myself, I look at myself, I said, Mitch, there's one thing you need to do is cut everything down by 50%, half. Cut everything in half, mostly tied to speed. Everything you do, cut it in half. That way you pay attention, you focus, you are present, you are that you know every detail of every facet of what you are doing.
That's cool because I did a similar
It
experiment
was
the other
necessary.
day.
I felt it was life or death. You need to slow down. You're
Yeah.
gonna be dead one day. That's another big phrase of ancient wisdom. You're gonna be dead. You need to really think about that sometimes. You gotta live with it every day, every moment. But you're gonna be dead. Slow down. Stop rushing toward the finish line.
And this wasn't a planned quote, but another Alan Watts one where is when he said, don't measure life by the amount of how productive you were, but how many times you were present in the day.
Oh yeah.
And I was having a similar
feels good.
experiment the other day with that, where I was
Ideally both. Be present while you're being productive.
yeah, I was just moving my hands, like doing things with my hands,
Oh,
and I just it felt like I was
that.
controlling the neurons firing like towards my
Amazing.
muscles, and it got that slowed down where I felt way more peace
That's
because I was
fucking
just
deep, man.
focused on here and now.
Oh,
cool.
that's enlightenment. That's more powerful maybe than you even know. Yeah, I like that a lot. Measure your successes through the day in presence, because it is, and it could feel so fleeting because we're all lost in our minds. But the more you're present, the more you're present. You know, I think so many times we think I'm gonna pray tonight.
I've done it before.
Yeah, I'll pray later on. You know, I'll be present later. But if you're present now, you will be present later. Your chances of being present later.
And you can even have your prayer right then and there.
Yeah.
When you're saying I'll pray later, just be like, let's just
Absolutely.
take a
Matter of
moment
fact,
right
you
now
should. Yeah.
to be in prayer.
Because where else could you be? Like later is just another hopeful thought.
Yeah, and I think if you're actually doing tasks and your stuff during the day, it takes away from both your presence later when you're gonna pray and
Yeah.
while you're in the middle of the task that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like God or the Spirit wouldn't want you to be worried about praying later when you're doing something else.
I like that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I keep thinking of any number of phrases of like, you are what you eat, or like things get compounded. They say that for ayahuasca itself, but this is a lesson about life itself, which is the more you do something, the more you are something. The more you meditate on love and peace, you become love and peaceful. The more you meditate on anger, the more you think about the confrontation that you had, the more confrontational you will be. It's where you put your energy, it's where you put your essence. Much like we talked last week about the demons being real once you create them. Same goes for the positive emotions too, because you are what you create.
Yep, I just went through that today. Had anger for a few minutes, then I just realized that I was just somewhere that didn't exist. Then just got into the moment and it kind of just faded away. I didn't really try, but I knew that I shouldn't be ruminating.
Hell yeah.
That was just the first initial thought. All right, so this is a little different because it involves others. You will understand a great truth. Oh, I'm sorry, Lao Tzu. You will understand a great truth when you get to realize that what you do to others, you are really doing to yourself.
Ooh.
And I just thought that was so deep because I never knew he said that, but I know that Jesus said the same exact thing.
Ah, yes. The golden rule. Was that scripted? Oh my God. Yeah, I like that a lot. There seems to be this pattern. People who are separated by thousands of miles can come up with the same idea. How is this? How is this? Follow your instincts, I've been thinking about. When you know something is true, there's really nothing else. You know that it's true. Carl Jung on his deathbed said, well, one of his last interviews, they asked him, do you believe in God after all this stuff you did in your career? Long storied career? He's like, no.
Whoa.
I know.
Oh.
Oh, tricked Evan in real time. He said, he was funny like that. He's like, I know, because you really don't believe in God. I was thinking about the word faith too the other week, and how faith really just doesn't cut it for what you're trying to talk about. You know certain things. You know things in your heart if you're close to God.
And speaking of knowing, when you know that what you do to others, you do to yourself, when you know that, I feel like you suffer worse when you do wrong to others in a way.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Because some
I like
people,
that a
I'm like,
lot.
are they really affected by just being a piece of shit like this? But then you don't really know if it affects them because some people are so hopeful. It's like, yeah, I'm probably doing more good than bad.
Whoa.
So maybe they really don't
Is
take
it
that time to
seeping in?
reflect. Because is that karmic, or is the spirit saying you're going to just be harder on yourself because you did wrong? And then then you're going to suffer because of being hard on
Oh,
yourself.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's a trope in the ayahuasca community talking about, like, it will show you what you need to see. Super deep, right? But if you do the drug again, if you do the medicine again, you are punished if you don't obey the first lesson.
Ooh.
You're punished because you know what you have to do and you don't do it. Isn't that the worst?
Dang,
of all?
so don't do it twice, basically.
Yeah.
If you're not,
if
if
you're not
up
gonna
to par.
change, if you're not gonna change, don't do it that second time. You good, bro?
Man, I could see that being real too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, inaction, like you said, is a double negative, because you have like you said, you have the nagging of, should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? And then you have the actual failure of doing anything.
Yeah.
So you have that mental stressor, and then you have the reality that you have neglected, the opportunity you have passed up, the reality that you have now.
And I feel
Because
like
you did nothing.
and I feel like these medicines open up your mind in such a way to such deep, knowing such a deep connection between yourself and things around you, that you gain the more potential for feeling worse when you do wrong to your environment, which is really you, kind of thing.
I like that a lot. And to combine your two things, it does become a mission. Before, you're kind of floating around in an escapist point of view, but then when you really see it, the artist, the convert, you see it for yourself for the first time, it becomes more than you, because it becomes a mission. Every time you do wrong by someone else, you really do wrong by yourself. And you feel it, but maybe there's something deeper in you that you feel that could make you sick. That's why purging is like a huge part of the experience as well. People just barf. And I only realized it one time, but I don't know if I told this story, how I described it so beautifully in the fact that I felt this blockage in my body. And once I realized this great truth about myself, it exploded and it literally became barf. And I just shot it out of my body, and I never thought about it again.
Concentrated bad energy coming out.
It's real, dude. I felt it like, ooh. And that is what's happening. I see it now myself.
And I've only had recent experiences in my life like this, but I told you guys a little while back that someone stole a tool from me in my house.
Oh, yep.
And you don't really know when you wrong somebody, you don't know how it really affects them. It's probably affecting you way worse.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I realized when someone stole from me, at first I was just like, you piece of, for stealing from me. But then I realized he must be agonizing for days and weeks and months at a time for having stolen.
That's deep too. The understanding of the guru too. It's just kind of like of the enlightened you. You know why they did it. I was talking to my little niece the other day, and she said, "Mish, what's it like being old?" And I said, "Ooh, that's a deep question. Deep." And I took him in and I said, And I says, "I'm more understanding now." And I really meant it, because I know why people do what it is they do. It's not really a mystery for me. Maybe transgenders, I don't get it. But but most things I know why before I didn't know why. But now I could see it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And in that, you become more compassionate. You become more understanding. And you realize that God is speaking to them. I don't need to take justice, as the Bible said. Justice is for God alone.
Ooh, no need to take justice. Yeah, you really don't.
Deep. Now on to Poja's modern living.
So the big discussion is how capitalism has failed us, and that socialism is the new way. That's
yes.
what all the young kids on campus are telling me. And that, that socialism will solve all our problems because everyone will have everything distributed equally.
Finally.
And I think capitalism was created because it's the only one that works, because humans are going to try to steal from each other. Humans are going to try to take more and have their own hoard. And you'll always distribute it wrong. You will never get the distribution right.
Yeah.
So capitalism came along and said, no, the property is yours and that's it. If you want more, you got to work for it, money, and we're going to trade.
I wish people would see that one fact about communism, though. It's like there has to be someone who distributes it to the rest of the people.
Yeah, that's very true.
Like
right?
who do you trust with making that decision?
Very deep. Yeah, it's not God. You don't even believe in God. You know,
It's like the
it's a guy. It's a human.
Yeah, and that human is always going to have his own agenda. He's always going to distribute it the way he wants to seat himself and keep himself in power, even though he's saying, I'm a communist leader, I'm fair, everyone's equal.
Like the reparations leaders, they're all just buying mansions and not doing anything for anybody. They're just all buying mansions.
Take it to his natural conclusion. It's so true, man. But they don't even see that way. What the
Yeah.
hell? It's so glaringly obvious.
So, like, naturally, you'd think, man, communism just can't work. Socialism can't work. That's obvious why capitalism has taken over, because there's been so many times in history, in Poland, in Russia, in China, that it just didn't work out.
You know, it does seem obvious. That's a good word for it. Is it not obvious? I'm surprised that people don't think of it that way. But it's just like, yes, there's a man giving you stuff, you know, which definitely won't work. Or everybody fights for their own, which, you know, works fairly decent, you know? If you work harder, naturally, you're probably going to get a little more. Maybe not, but that's the risk you're willing to take. If you're a piece of shit, you kind of get what comes along with that as well. That you never tried, you're not going to get anything. You could be sure that you're not going to get anything. It just seems very logical that way.
Yeah, just try harder. That's the whole essence of
Boomer
capitalism.
mentality. Oh.
I guess so, yeah.
Try harder, which is weird now, which is I could kind of see where their mind is coming from now. Old communists, I maybe don't really understand the entire world at other times, but I certainly know now I could see the appeal for it because the world has changed so fast. And because, you know, would you guys say communism is directly tied into the universal income? Because I tend to support that sometimes when I realize that jobs are going away and robots are taking them.
Yep, and they've been predicting that for so long too.
Yeah.
It's bound to be some form of communism.
I just came up with this right now. You guys like this idea? Yes. I like this idea that we could, for $9.99 a month, you could sponsor a child in Africa, feed them 2 plates of rice and a guava. No, there'll be a robot that sponsors us. There'll be one robot and he takes the place of you at a job and you get all his money. One robot. That way we don't even have to distribute. We just get what he gets.
That's interesting.
Isn't that cool? I just came up with that now.
Oh, man. Then Mitch, this is not good.
Oh, no.
Because in capitalism...
Am I Hitler?
If you apply AI to capitalism, the guy with the most money will buy the most robots and have them working the most and making the most money for him.
Yeah. But what if you could only have one?
That's socialism.
What do you mean?
That's socialism. That everybody only gets one robot.
Yeah. And I guess I kind of do agree to a certain extent, unless you guys could change my mind here, that we're kind of heading towards that anyway. I guess the question is, what's the best way to sort of do that?
You bring me to my conclusion. The striking point here is distribution sounds very computational. Distributing everything perfectly sounds like the CPU circuit says, oh, I need to compute here more. I need more resources here. I'm going to take it from the power distributor. I need more power.
I wish
here.
it was that logical.
Yeah. So socialism might work perfectly if an AI is distributing everything.
Oh, nice. Very interesting. I like that a lot.
A
perfectly neutral distributor, social leader that literally measures every piece of data and says, no, he's deficient, he needs more. No, he has too much, he's got to give it to him.
Yeah, we could sort of extrapolate and say like, oh, who's programming the computer, I guess.
Right. True.
But kind of like, unfortunately, we see with the AIs now, the GPT, you could barely ask it anything, honestly.
Let's assume it's unbiased and it will distribute equally.
Then okay, I see what you're saying. Let's go to thought experiment where there is this hypothetical robot that gave everyone equal stuff. There was no human intervention. It was running itself.
AI czar.
Is this good?
That sounds pretty good when it comes to like financials and stuff like that. But I'm thinking of the robot doing your job kind of thing, and if it was one robot per human, I
Yeah.
think that would be great actually,
Okay,
because you
hell
could
yeah.
still
It's a
go
fun
off
idea.
with your own body and go do other work if you want
Right.
to make more money.
Supplement.
But you can't get two robots. You can only
Yes.
have one
Okay,
fake surgeon.
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's kind of where I was going
So
in that sense. Like,
capitalism.
you are your own supplement, but you have the UBI, Universal Basic Income, right? Via this robot. That's the way it's more like
Right.
fair, more organized, maybe.
Man, have we like leveled
Have we
out?
solved-
Have we
We got
solved
to the-
Have we
capitalism and
take Karl
socialism?
Marx to its natural conclusion? Yeah, that feels real. I don't know. I was just thinking about that robot sponsorship idea. Right
Well,
now.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that the AI who distributes everything fairly, it works just for the financials and like income, because
Yeah.
I think it would obviously be too dictatorial if I couldn't just like go gather some apples from my tree or something.
Yeah, that's a
and
rough
not give
one,
that
too.
to someone else.
Right? Like, will we need to at that point? Will the robots be in charge? Will we have propriety? Will we have what's the word, over these things still? Because yes, you're right. It is just the UBI, but that's not all socialism is, I think, is what you're saying.
Right.
If I hear you correctly, there's the healthcare system that still will be around.
Robot nurse.
Will the robot nurse, robot doctor be a thing? Will they get paid? Will there still need to be humans? Well, how about this? Do you guys think there's a time in the future or near future where it will be fully automated, that robots could do any job? That's something that we haven't really discussed. Like any job.
I am definitely surprised that they went for creatives first.
I am so surprised. Oh, we won't get into it, but oh my God, that was a huge one.
I think once they
Last one I
once they
thought.
figure out the human hand and they figure out the human foot and ankle,
Oh,
they'll be able
yes.
to do it, because they got robot arms and limbs, but they're like they can't hold things.
Yeah, they kinda
right?
suck,
They're
awkward.
they're like mannequins. They have no dexterity. But I think once they figure out this and make this really good and really
Oh, that's cool.
compete with ours, I think that's where they can.
That's
take
our
over.
engineering perspective for Poach. I like that a lot, because there is a lot to the human anatomy that makes us special.
That presence I was talking about earlier, how do you
Oh.
replicate those veins and those arteries to
Yeah.
like manipulate?
Is it possible? That's the eternal question, right?
Yeah.
Will this be someday,
The hand
or
is
is
a
there
really tough
something
one.
that we're missing? I want to say, just make a fun prediction, because this is a show, 50, 60 years, I want to say, till they could do like all jobs. All jobs. What do you guys think?
I would say less.
Even less?
I'd say less.
So it is possible?
I think once that hand gets here,
The hand is
It's
soon
really the
enough.
hand.
They have some decent hands, but
Yeah.
clearly you got some ways to go for sure.
50, 60 years?
Yeah.
I'm
All
gonna
the
call
jobs.
25 years.
25. Okay, hell yeah.
I feel like small things like getting my hair cut, I would rather a person do it.
haircut. Oh, now you're talking.
tough one.
See, you forget these things. Haircut.
Not only can he
Smooth. Will the robot be
Right.
smooth?
right, because the manipulating the hands is one thing, but then getting the manipulation with the tools
Yeah.
that are already
Dexterity
difficult.
that is so
Like
particular
your hair is like
to
half
humans.
chopped off like mine.
We all have the same haircuts.
Everyone's got hard parts all
Little
over.
shit in it.
Or it's just all shaved. That's just
Yeah.
like, okay, your hair's cut.
Our
Buzzed.
mandatory robot socialists, they're jealous of our hair because they can't grow any, so they just cut it all.
All right, so let's bring it back. So you got a robot, I guess, handyman that does all your work for you. He could be a nurse, could cut your hair. What do you do for the society or a friend, say, who's just like, I'm not going to be socialist. I don't want a robot. I threw mine off a cliff. Are you going to look down on that person or look up at that person for escaping?
Yeah, that brings up a good point, because I in my ear is the word screaming. In my ear it says meaning. Meaning. We still have to find meaning, right? Once everything is taken care of, will you still have meaning? Maybe this hypothetical friend of yours, he is distressed with all the robot nonsense. He doesn't want to be a part of it. But doesn't the robot give you a chance to seek your meaning, your pursuit of happiness, if you will? He's taken your job responsibilities. But presumably, if this man ditched his robot that sponsors him, he'd have to do the work, would he not?
He would have a full-time job.
Yeah.
But then you get into the question of robot maintenance and who's going to do robot maintenance, that job.
Oh, yeah.
To like refresh your bot after a couple of years if it's
Your
like,
friend's robot.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, one friend is a, but because I feel like the human, much like your idea about you need to know how to build a car to drive a car.
Yeah.
I think we have to be able to do the robot's job if it can't do the job.
Yeah, I should hope so, because when you were saying that the human would still have to do this job, I theorize in the future it might be illegal to work.
Oh.
They're like, no, because you're a liability. Why would I have a dumbass human come in, wreck everything when I have robots that do it perfectly fine? I think they're going to say, no, get the fuck away from here.
Too many
Take this
mistakes.
money, get
Yeah.
out of my face. Take your money and go away.
It almost brings up the question as to like, why would you get rid of your robot?
Right.
Why?
Because that's your
Because-
source of income. No one just
Exactly.
like throws their income off the cliff.
The number one complaint is people having to go to work every day right now. Oh, if I only had time for my passion. Most of these people don't have no passions anyway. Actually, the sad part is the passion is work a lot of the time. But another philosophical, would they find it if they were forced to get away from work, or would they kill themselves with drugs and social media and sex bots?
It'll be half and half. You'll have some Russell Brands, the converts.
The converts.
Then you'll just have the escapists
Yeah,
who
man.
just die that way.
What I hear you guys saying is, in our socialist AI thought experiment, there really is no way to avoid living without an AI. It sounds like once the AI show
Right.
up and the socialism takes over, it's there.
Yeah, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle.
And I
as
guess
they
I can say is like the AI will bring socialism because it's a computer that can perfectly distribute.
I would have to agree with all that. I really think that the AI revolution is coming. I think with that is a form of socialism. But it's not the old socialism because it's not human. So we'd have to make a new name for it, would we not? It's just a new way of life, much like the internet and social media brought a new way of life that we now have to adapt to. The question is, will we have enough time to adapt to it in a healthy manner that keeps us alive? Because I would say one of my biggest concerns is that of meaning, of that of purpose. I think when you take away someone's job, perhaps even their ability to do the job, it might be illegal, honestly, I think. Where can you find purpose? Is it half people will kill themselves, half people will find it? Will it be the death of humanity? Or will social unrest be our doom? Now on to Mitch Translates the Tao.
I figured you didn't want an answer to that.
Yeah, right. That's deep when you guys know it's more of
The audience.
But don't start yourself.
Mitch Translates the Tao, Chapter 38. Superior virtue is no virtue. Therefore, it is virtue. Inferior virtue doesn't lose virtue. Therefore, it is unvirtuous. Superior virtue is non-action by means of non-action. Inferior virtue is non-action by means of action. Superior benevolence is without acting. Superior justice is with acting. Superior propriety acts when no one respects it. One must roll up one's sleeves and enforce. Thus, when one loses the Tao, they become virtuous. Lose virtue, then comes benevolence. Lose benevolence, then comes justice. Lose justice, then comes propriety. In propriety, weakness of loyalty and trust is the beginning of chaos. Preconception is the flower of the Tao, but it is also the beginning of ignorance. Therefore, the great man presides in the thickness and not in the thinness. Live in truth, not in splendor. Therefore, remove that and take this. Oh, there's a lot. This might have been the longest one so far.
Woo-wee. That was
38. Woo! Wipe it off. Yeah. Yeah, well, let's start at the top. Let's break it down because it's kind of organized into these nice chunks of wisdom. It's just smacking us with wisdom at every step of the way here. Superior virtue is no virtue, therefore it's virtue. Inferior virtue doesn't lose virtue, therefore it is unvirtuous. Thoughts?
It doesn't lose virtue.
So
So
I
it's
think
unvirtue.
this is talk about, the virtue is always present there to throw you off the trail. The idea of virtue, yet again, very simply, the more you try to be virtuous, it's not even real. Inferior virtue doesn't lose virtue, therefore it is unvirtuous.
Yet again, it seems like it's always just something that you can't really grasp onto. You
Yeah.
can't. It's like don't even try to be virtuous. You're never going to do it.
Yeah.
But if you are going to be virtuous, don't act with a purpose of not to act.
I like that a lot. I'll stick with that one. That's our translation.
Maybe another correlation with the turn the other cheek metaphor that Jesus has to not gain power or strength or virtue or dominance in this situation.
Yeah.
Present your cheek again to show that this person is beneath you, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's saying stuff like any type of action at all, which is sort of thought out action, is sort of gonna rebound on you.
Hard.
Superior benevolence is without acting. Superior justice is with acting. So we're hitting something else here now, but it's pretty deep. I take this as benevolence is something that you go with, but justice is worldly.
Yeah.
Justice is here, and it is also something that must be dealt with on this plane. You must live on two planes at once.
Yeah, in this context, it seems like benevolence is higher up in a hierarchy than justice is.
Yeah.
Because when you think justice, you're like, I got to do something about this. This person did me
Yeah.
wrong or did wrong, and
Or
I
perhaps
gotta
two
act.
sides of the coin, right? The worldly and the unworldly, the acting and the unacting.
Yep.
Sort of like you will do it, and it is necessary. And I like to say to this, it is sort of, as we know about spirituality, the material world exists, and you must stand up for yourself. Even the gurus taught to not be a pushover. You can be spiritual, but if you're not quite there yet where you could walk on water, then people are going to try to take advantage of you. In which case, you need to be worldly and stand up for yourself and protect what's yours.
Yeah, I think justice, when you're thinking of justice, that has the ego more attached to it than benevolence. Because I think benevolence is describing a situation where, yeah, you're going to do the right thing, but don't get so emotional about it, kind of thing. Don't think you got to do the right thing
Yeah,
and be
like that.
just.
It's like intrinsic. It's in you already. It's a spirit that is in you.
Yeah, you don't have to think about doing the right thing if that spirit kind of overtakes.
Oh, and this sort of expands on this too. Superior propriety acts when no one respects it. One must roll up one's sleeve and enforce. It's saying exactly what I just said. You got to stand up for yourself. When you are this peak, this utmost propriety, such a weird word, is that you need to enforce it. You need to protect it when no one respects it. And only in that case. Otherwise, if people respect it, you can't even really call it propriety. It's like, is it really owning something? They respect that it's yours, just as the benevolence in your heart. You don't have to act on it.
Oh, wow, that's really deep. I never thought of it that way.
Oh, I like that a lot. Thus, when so this one's the best part of all. I think this is where all the juice comes in. And this is kind of like my chart. Oh, it's funny how they all worked out. When one loses Tao, they become virtuous. Lose virtue, become benevolent. Lose benevolence, become justice. Lose justice, becomes propriety. Propriety, the worldly at the bottom. What is this? Hierarchy of needs, even. It's the hierarchy of belief. The psychological and the physiological is at the bottom. Propriety, ownership. Hey, stay away from my stuff. It's worldly.
Oh, I didn't
get away.
I didn't expect it to go that way. I thought it seemed like when you were removing the Tao, it was getting positive, but it was actually negative in this term.
Worse, baby. Or
Right.
you could just maybe say more worldly. Maybe one's not better or worse.
I just like that because I never heard. This is the first chapter I feel like where it says to get rid of, to not get rid of the Tao.
Yeah.
Like it's everything else seems like drop your idea of the Tao. That's where I thought this was going. But it seems like something that's already inside you that you have to
Yes.
retain. So that's
I think
what
so
you were
too.
saying
And
earlier.
like this Tao is sort of like in definition the lack of the thought, the lack of a purpose. The purpose is already there.
Right.
You're thinking you have a purpose or an intention or a thought. No, that was
Oh,
already
man.
there. But you cycle around the clock to think that it is you when really there was nothing in the first place, which is the purest of all things.
Wow, each one is
think
just
that's
like
deep.
another layer of thought and
Absolutely.
descending
So
into
think about
madness.
this. Propriety is here, right? It's the bottom. Maybe it's the most worldly. But if you take my shit, I want to become just. I'm going to go get justice. I'm going to take it back. But when that's not there, maybe they need it. I'll be benevolent. I'll let them take it. I'm going to cause peace everywhere I go. Maybe I'm being a little more enlightened. You could take my stuff. They need it more than I do, like your friend that stole the tool.
Right.
They're going to learn their stuff. It's okay. God's justice, you know? What spiritual level are you at? But after benevolence, you have virtue. Oh, virtue, peace at all times. I am actually good because I know what good is. I am virtuous. But even virtue is way too worldly because after that is just the Tao. Virtue is still having the thought that I am virtuous. I know what it is. I know what it could be. But really, the only thing wrong with that, I believe, is just the I.
Yeah.
Saying I. What about virtue? If it was virtue, it'd therefore be Tao.
Yeah, any
But I
involvement
am virtuous.
any involvement you're putting of your own
Yes.
into the situation
I
of
like that a lot.
of what needs to where there needs to be benevolence or the Tao, you're inserting yourself into a situation.
Boom. Perhaps where it never existed.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Or where you already are.
Yeah,
and you
I
know
like
what to
that
do.
too. Yep. So in propriety, weakness of loyalty and trust is the beginning of chaos. Boom, there it is. He kind of just explained it a little. Preconception is the flower of the Tao, but is also the beginning of ignorance. Preconception, literally translate before thought, like thinking you know, is sort of this. They say the flower of Tao, but flower in this case could also be translated as the magnificence, the splendor of the Tao.
And
is-
sorry.
Is preconception or precognition. Some of the greats of the past had this gift, this magic power, if you will, of precognition because they had such a connection to all things. But if you're not advanced in the art and you're really just at the level of virtuous without the level of Tao, it's also the beginning of ignorance.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you use preconception, you could be right half the time, but you could also go horribly wrong.
Oh, that's deep.
For you. You know, a broken clock is wrong, right twice a day, as they
Yeah.
say.
Oh man, that
Kinda
explains so much in the world, right? Like you can be right, but that doesn't mean God made you right,
Yeah.
or that you are God, or that you're always right.
We're special for being right in this moment.
Yeah, ooh, I
Yeah.
like that too. And then of course the big conclusion. Therefore, the great man presides in the thickness, which might be perceived as profoundness, and not in the thinness. Could also be like ungenerous. These are just concepts that are tied to the Chinese character as well, even though it physically means thick and thin. But you know, much like we say deep. That's deep, man. It's not deep, but it is profound. We need the word profound when we say deep. Live in truth, not in splendor. Therefore, remove this. Remove that and take this. Just a poetic ending.
I like the thick adjective you use there.
Yeah.
Because that could be... Thick just seems like entangled and weeds and stuff like that. I see that as like going through the battle, the dragon or the dark side of you kind of thing. Or all the demons that you know because it's such a spiritual battle.
Well, he says presides in the thickness is the great man.
Right, but and being aware of the thickness and the demons and evil spirits around
that's cool,
you,
the awareness, I like that.
You have more of an opportunity to cut through it and get to the other side.
And where the thinness is this ungenerous spirit, it also feels unattached when I think thinness. Thin drink, thin air. There's no connection. You're not even a part of it. You're floating around. You're all hot air. You're all gases. And literally thin.
And that was like an old war term or something like that. If you're above if you get flak, that must mean that you're over the target, kind of thing.
Oh yes.
So if you're in the weeds, that might be where you have to be right now.
I like it. Hell yeah! Any final thoughts, Dow 38? Well, listen, guys, this has been episode 56 of Ancient Wisdom. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time. Watch it cut your dick off. Watch it cut your dick off.